me that we may not be able to answer today, like I said, feel free to call me or shoot me an email. If I'm in a meeting and I don't answer right away, I call you back. Okay? Alright, so common mistakes. Failure to obtain a qualified export counsel and develop a master international plan. That's where myself and Al and the rest of our team comes in. You want to make the right decision by taking all the factors into consideration before you even decide to start spending money in an export market. And that's why we're here, to help you set up the foundation for successful export sales. So this is very, very important because a lot of people think, okay, exporting is just selling to another person. It's not like that anymore. All right? Insufficient commitment from top management to overcome the initial difficulties. Like for example, it might require putting special regulations in place in a particular market, getting the approvals for the export in that market, having the product tested by the Food and Agricultural Organization or whatever department that needs to test your product. Insufficient care in selecting overseas sales representatives and distributors. And over the years, I've found that this becomes a major issue. Because you think you have a good person, they start off great, and then 3 months down the road, which I'm experiencing right now, they fire two of their team, and then your product just sits there. And I have even taken it a step further where I'm offering the product to their customers for them to deliver it, and they're not doing it. So sometimes you think you've done the foundation, but it doesn't always work. Then I'm looking for a new distributor. Because I don't want a product that your reputation is very important in this industry. If I sell you a product, I'm selling you a product that will sell. If there's a problem, I find a solution. I'm not saying I always have the best product, but I'm saying if there's a problem, we find a solution. But don't have the product sitting in your warehouse. I'm telling you where to take the product to. They want to use the product and test it. Now they're telling me they're waiting to hire a new sales representative. So if it takes them a year, then product sits right here, you know. So I've learned that from personal experience, and it's very, very important. That's why I always recommend to everybody that I talk to, plan this first. Okay? Make the right decision. You know, it's not always going to be right, so don't worry about it. This is a learning experience for us all. Sometimes they may be going through something that they didn't anticipate. There was a fire in my large potential distributor in Jamaica. It was beyond my control, beyond their control. So now I had to take a step back, you know, and understand what they're going through. But I'm going to wait for them because I believe the foundation work I've done with them is going to pay off in the long run. So, you know, you have to make decisions at a point in time when you have challenges that come up. All right. Reliance on orders from around the world rather than concentrating on 1 or 2. Don't try to sell to every single market in the same month. It's not going to possibly happen. Pick a few markets you think you have some potential and try it. If it's not working for you, try another couple markets. But don't try to be in every market all at the same time. You're going to spread yourself too thin, and then you're not going to be able to service them efficiently. Because you may not even be dedicating the right time to develop like 2 or 3 products in your portfolio. Don't neglect your export business when the domestic market improves, because sometimes something may happen and then your export sales just shoots up. I mean, your local sales shoots up, and okay, it's easier to sell here because then the customer is easier to deliver to. You don't have the hassle of worrying about managing the overseas account, and you forget. You prefer to sell it locally because you're not going to worry about them. It happens a lot. It may not seem that way, but it happens. Failure to treat international distributors and customers on an equal basis. Some of the markets like Montserrat only has 5,000 people. But the same effort that I have to dedicate to a larger market, I need to dedicate to that market because it's the same foundation work. Less sales, but then I have to make a decision, okay, do I just pick 2 potential distributors that I know send the product and then I can count on them to sell to the 5,000 people? You know, so you're going to have to do that. Assumption that the given market technique and product will be successful. So you can't use the same strategy all the time in different markets. You may need to tweak it. It may not work. Okay? Evaluating your distributor or agent. This is very, very important. Before you begin to choose this person, obviously you're going to get leads from everybody and everybody's going to say, I have a friend or I know somebody or I know this. You need to be comfortable with that person you choose. Basic information. Some of the islands have good distributors, they don't have a good website, and I've learned that. Some of them have a great website and they have no sales support whatsoever. So good. And then when you look at their vehicle, it's supposed to be a chill vehicle, but the fancy chill thing up there doesn't work.
That's the same as the US, a good website.
Exactly, exactly. So you live and you learn. Get the basic information. Not all the time you need to travel. That's why I said you can depend on the Global Trade Center, because When they visit, like for example, they went to Guatemala, they would have visited a number of different clients, visited a couple plants or a couple distributors or a couple businesses or met with them and done that foundation work for you. So you get that basic information. How long have they been operating? How many vehicles are in their portfolio? How many sales reps? If it's a specialized area, do they have people trained in that industry? For example, in pharmaceuticals, you need specialists in that field. You can't just hire somebody who could say, okay, I could sell anything, I could sell any diabetic medication. Or, I don't pretend to be jack of all trades. I know the industry I'm in, I know what I'm comfortable in, and I tell everybody I can sell, but if it's a specialized field, I need to learn more about it. So you're gonna have to figure that out. Sales staff information. Not everybody knows what they're talking about. A lot of the places you have good sales and management support, but sometimes you don't. They might have a product, but they just don't know the techniques or the way of doing the sale of your product. And sometimes that's where you come in, because you might need to do that initial training, get them up to speed, and then you count on them. They might be a great distributor, but then it's a double-edged sword. All right, so you need to meet with their people and figure out what they know. Do they need specialized knowledge? Do you need to train them in your product portfolio in order to make sure your sales are what they need to be, or your product is being offered the way it should be offered? What are their relationships with their current customers? Because sometimes you might be staying at a hotel and you know you're seeing your product, the competitive product is there, and you ask why you're not using this product and say, well, no, I've never seen that. I say, but didn't this person offer this? No. And then you call up the sales rep and say, but have you not been to this hotel? I'm at the hotel right now and they say they haven't seen you in weeks. That's when it gets to, your nitty-gritty. But most of the time, if you're a good distributor, you can count on them visiting regularly. But you need to still do your work. Like when I visit a market, I go straight to the customers. You can't stay in the office, else you never know what's going on with your product. And even if your sales are great, you still need to go and find out what's going on. Okay? Product awareness and information. You need to know in that market what is the competition, what are the strengths of your product, what are the advantages, how does it line up, where does it line up. That is very, very important, because that also affects what your potential sales or what your projections are going to be, which will also affect your production capabilities and all those other things. Okay? Market research. Very, very, very important. And that's why I tell people sometimes you can depend on your distributor, but sometimes you need to do your own work. Like I was trying to find out for a particular market of mine, how many was there ice cream consumption, because that's what I've been doing the last couple of days. And it's very difficult to get statistics in that market. And I expected that market to be so sophisticated that it would be easy to just find it. It's not that easy. Some of the figures are from 2010. That's 6 years ago. So you need to do your market research. Sometimes you can ask, because a lot of the markets that you're going into, their chambers, their government organization, the statistical offices, don't take it for granted. And there's some markets that will surprise you and all the figures are in front of your eyes. And you use that to kind of gauge, like how many supermarkets are there, how many mini marts, or how many cafes, or how many. For some of you, like for your example, how many home outlets. I can tell you that on top of my head for St. Martin, for Trinidad. It all depends. Some of them are large distributors, some of them smaller, some of them might carry your competing brand. And not because a distributor carries a competitive brand of yours unless they have a non-compete agreement. They might be a good distributor for you because you may not have a choice. They might be selling Duracell batteries, but you want them to carry GP batteries if that's what you're carrying. One might fall into high-end category, one might fall into economy category. Alright? Tariffs and harmonized systems. Obviously, your product has to be barcoded. Our world, everybody except for a few islands and some of the smaller Chinese supermarkets in Angola, like I say, still use the old cash registers. They still do that. Almost everybody barcodes now. So you have to make sure if it's a new product that your product has been tried and tested, and then you all know I don't take it for granted, but everybody normally does the foundation work for this. So if it's a product that you have, it's already been tested. If it's an agricultural product, it's gone through all the standards and specifications. Okay? Benefits of trade show. You're participating in our export presentation. It's very important to continue networking. Make your contacts amongst yourself. Get to all these seminars, because there might be somebody who might be your competitor but also support you, and you all can partner and get your brand or your product or whatever it is out there. They might have a lead for you because they're not in that market, and you might have the perfect product for that market. So you need to start promoting yourself, your business, your organization. If you don't do that, you end up losing a lot of opportunities. I volunteer on SCORE, and when I joined SCORE, everybody knew that I was a member of SCORE because I talk about it when I'm at the kids' school, I talk about it when I'm in the islands, I talk about it to everybody, because you never know who wants to open a business in the US. They don't know where to begin. That's how I found Global Trade Center. That's why I'm a member here. All because you network. You need to participate, because sometimes in one location you might find a lot of potential buyers. For example, the food and beverage show for your industry, I think there was one a couple months ago in the Miami Convention Center. There was a home trade. Oh, right.
Construction, we participated.
Right, and then there's another one that does like home improvement, something. It was last year. It was sometime October of last year. There's another one coming up. When I get the invitation, I can send it to you. It's a good way to network with your local people, and then you get a lot of overseas buyers coming looking for new products. For the food and beverage, it's the show every October or September. Las Vegas had the one with all the electronics, like all the batteries, and that was not very long ago. Yeah, I didn't attend that one. And then I know New York has, so each state has their own different ones, but it all depends on the industry, and you want to keep figuring out what's there. Sometimes it's not cost effective for you to go. Sometimes it's just good. There's one coming up in Orlando for food and beverage, and it's in November sometime. I haven't got the name. I know Aussie Glenn's talked about it, but I can't remember when we're going. But there is one coming up. Last year there was one for amusement parks and fun foods and that sort of thing, and we participated in that. So it's really important that you keep networking yourself. Talk to each and everybody. Always get a business card. Always communicate and follow up. Sometimes we suffer a lot from not following up. We make a great contact, we have a great idea, and we just let it slip through. And that has been happening a lot because everybody's busy, they have your personal issues, you have to travel. That happens with me a lot, but I make sure, and my customers will tell you that. I call you. If you say call you back tomorrow, then I'm calling you back tomorrow. Don't get you, I send you an email. Sometimes you bombard people, but if you want that business, you go after it. And then they see that you're somebody they can count on. So you keep networking. It works. Get to all the chamber seminars. Get to everywhere. Any functions that we have, attend. You're going to be meeting people from all over the world. Okay? Pricing. Now, we're going to talk briefly about these from here on. Your pricing, your quotation, payments, and collections. You have to know what your market, and we mentioned this before, but you have to know your product and what the market can hold or what price you can enter the market at. Sometimes you might want to enter at a certain price and then increase. Sometimes you might want to enter at a higher price and decrease. It all depends on your product. Terms of sales. You have to decide. And our trade person or finance person will tell you things have changed a lot over the years. Before it was easy and people had relationships and you can give them credit right away. Then they had the Ex-Im banks that were involved. Then you had, okay, I trust you, I give you 90 days. And then I've learned over the last couple of years, 30 days goes into 60, 60 goes into 90, 90 goes into 120. I had a customer that paid me February from the year before. So things have changed. So you want to make sure and figure out when it comes to international trade, what kind of terms of sales, how are you going to ship your product, who's going to cover the cost of insurance, who's going to cover everything. That's important. You all agree on that before you start shipping your products. Alright, so your freight forwarding person will tell you everything, and these terms had changed about a year or 2 years ago. Something had changed. I can't remember which one.
In the EU, in a lot of things, but this is the basic.
These are the basic ones, but you know, it changes, I think, every couple of years or something like that. It does change. So you're going to have to decide, are you going to cover the cost and the freight and inland freight? I like to do this one so that the customer handles everything thereafter. But sometimes they ask you for a CIF price. Because sometimes you've already negotiated a really good price with your freight forwarder and you say, okay, use this person. Sometimes by me, by default, I just use whoever is close by.
Yeah, sure. It depends on your negotiation with the customer.
Alright, and then we talk again about methods of payment, again, and collections. I like cash up front, or I like dealing with the trade financing people. Because sometimes you know a customer, you've known them for a long time, but you know that you need your money up front, you know? Like some people I try to give credit terms to, I would do a 50% deposit and then a 30 and a 60, or I would do a 25, and then it all depends. And there's some markets you have to work with because they're very skeptical about a new product, and you know, you trust the people, you make the decision at that point to do it, if you can do it. If not, then you talk to our trade financing people. Because some of these companies have been in business for a very, very long time. And sometimes when we get to that point, you have to visit some of your markets to know your people. Okay? Cecilia? Insurance, well, cargo insurance and freight forwarding insurance, that's something you would need to get into once you've decided to ship your product. You're going to figure out who's going to pay the insurance charges. Are you going to cover inland freight to the point of the port? You're going to figure all of that out. Who's responsible for the product? Export documentation. Like I said before, a couple years ago, this used to be a specialized person. Now, I'm confident that you can depend on the freight forwarder to you send them the invoice, they know what products, if it's some agricultural product requires certification, hazardous products like pesticides and things that require some other things, equipment requires certain things like the weight and all those things and the bill of lading. But your freight forwarder is normally a good person who can handle that for you. Or your distributor that you have in the islands will make sure that everything is in place for them to have that product cleared from their end.